Welcome to Mastering the Art of Real Estate. I'm your host, Debbi DiMaggio. We are here today with Jennifer. Jennifer is coming to us actually from Vail, and she actually straddles two markets, Cabo San Lucas and Vail, Colorado. Let's bring Jennifer in.
Hello, Debbie. Thank you so much for having me. It is always a pleasure seeing your bright, smiling face, and I'm so excited to be here and talk some real estate today.
No, I'm so excited. We were supposed to do this a couple months ago when I was in Cabo. We didn't get to launch the show because of a power outage. So I've been excited to ask you all of my questions, but I did get to meet you in person. Oftentimes I don't meet my guests in person, and I had the opportunity to hang out with you and see your market and understand the Cabo market, and it was super fun. So let me introduce you properly. Jennifer, originally from Kansas City, moved to Colorado in 2000 after graduating from SMU in Dallas, Texas. Having spent childhood vacations in Vail, relocating to the high country felt like coming home. She launched her real estate career in 2001, driven by a passion for helping others achieve their dream of owning a piece of the mountain lifestyle. With over 20 years of success, she holds accolades like Top Salesperson of the Year multiple years, Certified Luxury Home Marketing Specialist. Her commitment to her community earned her the distinctive Angel Award actually since 2014. As a mother of two competitive dancers, Jennifer balances her family's active lifestyle with her thriving career. She loves traveling, particularly to sunny destinations like Mexico, and expanded her expertise in 2021 to include Los Cabos. Now she is equally passionate about finding the perfect homes for her clients in Los Cabos. Jennifer's unmatched experience, integrity, and worth ethic make the luxury realtor to turn your real estate dreams into reality. I love that. Well, we're very similar with the love of travel and all of the different places. And we got to spend quite some, I'd say 8 years. Our kids both went to Boulder, so we spent a lot of time skiing in the mountains there. And it is like coming home. It's just so beautiful. And you're there today, right?
I'm here today, and it is a real perk because in 16 years of having my children in the school system, this is our second snow day. So it is dumping outside and had about almost a foot since last night, and it's still going strong. And we should probably get another foot plus today. So it'll be awesome.
Beautiful. It's so magical. Well, it's so fun. You get to go between Vail and Colorado. The the two different kinds of weather patterns is must be beautiful and so fun.
It's
So
awesome, and we see a lot of people wanting to be in both markets, so it makes it nice, and it was a very natural progression.
yeah, that'll be interesting. I want to talk about that because there's so many places for us to go. But first, I want to find out, how did you get into real estate? Can you share your journey with us and when that happened and how and why that happened?
Sure, thanks so much for asking. I, as you mentioned, spent a lot of time in the mountains growing up, and being from Kansas City, for anyone that's familiar with the terrain between Colorado and Kansas, it is very calm and there's not much to see on I-70, and it's a straight shot. So it's about a 10-hour drive, and I spent my whole life doing that. And when we were in town, here in the mountains, my parents were always very, very interested in real estate. They missed out on one of the initial offerings. My grandfather thought 25 grand was just too much for a lot on Vail Mountain. He wasn't going to spend that, and there was no way. Now, of course, that would have been a great investment. But my father and his one of his brothers and one of my mom's brothers started purchasing real estate. We purchased our first home together, and then they all started buying homes separately, which has been great for my real estate career as the years have passed. And during that time, we were always on the forefront of the newest development. So I was in the first ski school class at Beaver Creek when they opened that mountain. And then we proceeded to buy an Arrowhead and build an Arrowhead and build, we just kind of moved progressively west, which is what we've seen if you know the valley well here. And so I think when I moved here, there were a lot of different options of things I could do. And when you live in the mountains, traditionally, unless you have a corporate job, which those are very few and far between, you work at least 2 to 3 jobs. That's very common for most people who live in a resort community and are not corporate, so to speak. And my dad actually asked me how much I was making at the job I was working at that point, and I was living in his home. And he took me out and showed me a neighborhood that I was not interested in living in, and said, pick out your place to live there because you've got 2 weeks and you're out of here, and that's it. So get your real estate license or get out of my house. And that's the end of that. And I thought, well, looks like I'm going to be getting my real estate license. So I got that,
Wow.
and away we went with real estate. I've always, I guess in the last few years, I haven't done as much, but at that point, when I started real estate, I already also started in television. So working with all the local stations here in Vail was fantastic because I was able to meet everybody, interview everyone, and also, of course, pitch my business the entire time, which was incredible. We have a lot of people that um, do a lot Kansas City and Vail. So at the beginning there was a lot of that, and I was also very early on internet marketing back in 2004. So that's when I started my site, which was pretty early for lead generation in the internet world. So I think those two things combined is how I got started, and then it has grown, and that is what actually took me into Cabo, was all the time we spent there. And my clients just finally said, we're not working with the people down there, so figure it out, get licensed, even though that was my plan for after my children had graduated, so I could spend more time, more days there. Right now, I'm still tethered by the school calendar, as any parent knows. That's part of the deal when you have kids before they graduate high school. You kind of have to go with their calendar. So my clients forced me into the Cabo scene a little earlier than I expected, but I absolutely love it. It's always been my plan, and I was excited they did it because it's been a big success down there as well.
That's incredible. So are the people that you live in Vail and you've raised your kids in Vail, and so are there a lot of full-time families that live in Vail, and is that their first home? And then how did they decide that Cabo was the place?
So there are a lot of families that live in Vail full time. We have a very healthy community here. Most of my local residents are not the people who are purchasing in Cabo. Just a couple that are interested, but I haven't actually had an opportunity to help them purchase there. The majority of my clients that want to be in Cabo also have second homes here. So they're vacation homes, whether it's second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth home. They just, as I always preach, as your children get older, let me tell you a little secret. Nobody wants to come see you in Nebraska. Okay? Nobody wants to see you in Kansas. Nobody wants to come see you in Oklahoma. I know you may love it and you may be there. That's why they would be coming. But your weather has very little to offer. They want to come skiing, and they want to go to the lake, and they want to go to the ocean. So I have great agents that work in lake communities that would love to help you. Otherwise, mountains or ocean, baby, I got you covered. So that's where kids want to go. And people have actually asked me
That's
that.
cool.
You spend so much time with your parents. I'm like, yeah, because they live in Vail and Cabo. Who wouldn't want to spend time with them?
Absolutely. That's incredible. So it was your clients who started talking about Cabo, but then your own parents live now in Cabo. How did that happen? When did they decide to make the move?
We were real big fans of Hawaii. So we did Hawaii for about 13 years in a row. And my freshman year in college was the last time they went to Hawaii. And they decided, we've heard some good things about Mexico. I think Mexico had had a stigma of a lot of dangerous terrain down there. People didn't want to travel down there, certainly in the 80s. And I think in the 90s, things started getting better in the 90s. And late 90s. And so they started spending more and more time down. I think they went 3 weeks their first time, 6 weeks their second time, 3 months their third time. By their fourth time, they were there 6 months at a time. And then they built a home and they lived there 9 months a year, and then they're in Vail in the summer. So they're finished with cold weather. And we've seen a lot of combo there. So there's a ton of people that have homes in Aspen and Cabo or Vail and Cabo. That's a very, very common thing. In fact, we talked about doing an event, and there were over 200 people on the guest list we came up with
Wow.
within about 15 minutes that have homes in both places. So very, very popular. It's such an easy flight and so easy to access Cabo. Direct flights from all over California. Of course, it's 3 hours from Denver. It's a cakewalk, and they've been adding more and more direct flights, and Cabo is also up as one of the big airports in Mexico that's going to get a huge revamp, and we're going to be bringing even more direct flights. And of course, the private jets flying in there are just unstoppable. It's unbelievable how many privates we have in there. Every time you come in, it's just mind-boggling how many planes are there.
It's crazy. Yeah, I've watched it over the years. We started going to Cabo. I love Cabo. It's so beautiful and it's so easy to get to. And yeah, watching that airport transform, and it's completely different now than how it used to be. There are so many people, yes, from California going to, from California into Cabo. And then a lot of times people do from Northern California go into Palm Springs. But there's so much more, I think, to do in Cabo. And I think it makes it's well, because there's a lot of things to do. But let's talk about how one would actually buy a house in Cabo, buy a condo in Cabo, and what does that look like? Of course, I've always heard that you get a lease on, you don't really buy it, there's a lease. Break that down for us, because I think still people are confused. How are all these people buying? And when I say buying, not, yes, you can buy something for a couple 100,000, but people are buying things for 5, 10, 15, 20. You showed me a property for 35 or 65 million. It was insane.
65
So
million. Could you believe that? It's crazy.
I
That's
know
such a great question and a really common one we get. And I think, again, things have changed a lot as far as people's perception of being in Mexico. But additionally, things have not changed a lot as far as what we call, it's called a fideicomiso. And essentially, the reason this is in place is within 10 miles from the border, which of course that's also any sea border. There's no one is allowed to own property unless you are a Mexican citizen, truly own it. And that was for, of course, um, reasons of being attacked, right? So that you're saving your country. You don't want people coming in and putting ports in that aren't owned by the Mexican government. And it was to keep the Mexican people safe. That has stayed and remained in their rules and regulations. And so to get around that, because there are a lot of people down there that are not Mexicans that own, that are not Mexican citizens that own property, and you do that by getting what's called a fideicomiso, and essentially it's a 100-year lease that you get with the bank. It's very, very common. It is extremely regulated. So down there, we don't have your typical title company, so to speak, but everything goes through what we call our notarios, which are this similar to a notary, and it is very, very technical. There is a lot of paperwork that goes along with it, but it's actually quite easy. So as long as you have a great agent, first step is to call me or call somebody like me, right, and get in touch with us so that we can guide you through the process. I think that's number one, is you want to make sure you're working with people that have all the right contacts, that have great attorneys to set you up with, that have great accountants down there to set you up with, so that you don't have any problems as you work through the purchasing process. Once you do purchase land, there is an option of becoming a Mexican citizen, which both of my parents have done. They're dual citizens, so they have American passports and they have Mexican passports, which for people who travel a lot, there's some huge benefits to that outside of even owning property. My parents love to travel in the Middle East, and sometimes it's much nicer to travel on a Mexican passport than a US passport. They're a little more well received sometimes. They don't look super Mexican, your traditional Mexican, if you can guess, because I don't, but I am a resident. So I've started my process as well and become a resident in Mexico, so that hopefully I can do that as well. Own property one day myself straight out. But it is a very safe and secure process. And a lot of homes that transfer are owned in a fideicomiso and then transferred to a new buyer who will also purchase in a fideicomiso. So this is very common in Cabo, and the people, the Mexican people, and certainly the people in Cabo love Americans. They are so kind. They are so generous. You just got back. I mean, you were there. I mean, we were taking
wonderful.
pictures with the staff when I dropped you off because everyone was so sweet. I mean, they're
They're
just so
so
kind. And I tell people, honestly, you don't even really need to exchange money. You don't need to know how to speak Spanish. Go down there. You will have a phenomenal time. I think And as you said, Cabo's grown a lot. It's not about just going and sitting on the beach and, listening to the waves. You can certainly do that. But the
Right.
recreational activities that have grown in Cabo, it's just been exponential. And it's been incredible that no matter what kind of vacation you want, Cabo has it to offer to you, except for skiing. Then you're going to have to call me and fail.
Exactly, exactly. Or this is so exciting. So let's go to a commercial break and we'll be right back with Jennifer from Vail and Los Cabos. Welcome back. Welcome back to Mastering the Art of Real Estate. I'm your host, Debbi DiMaggio. We are here with Jennifer Coulson from Vail and Los Cabos. So we were just talking about your parents became a citizen of Mexico from Vail and via Kansas. So tell us, how does someone become a citizen of Mexico? Because I know I'm recently getting my Italian citizenship, and that's because of my family, great, great, great grandparents, but we've worked on that a while. So how does one, they're obviously not from Mexico, how do you get a citizen, how do you get your citizenship?
So, first thing you would do is you contact somebody who knows how to do that and do all the paperwork and get you through the process. I'm not 1,000% sure of everything they had to do. I know number one is you pay. That's It's always a hot topic, right? Give them some cash. And I know that they also had to go to Mexico City and do their interviews in person in Spanish and work through there. So I think there's a lot of paperwork. You also need to establish residency. It's a process of that's the process. So you first establish residency, become a resident, then you can work on your citizenship after you've been there, I believe, a certain number of years. And of course, then you need to go and do it in Mexico City at the capital. But I don't, I haven't gone through the process, so I'm not 100% sure on everything that has to take place. But I have some fabulous people who do. And if that's of interest to anyone, I am more than happy to put you in touch with them.
That's awesome because I think there will be some people wanting to do that. So I know when I was there, I had a question as a real estate agent, and we have a lot of real estate agents that we network and have on the podcast. What if an agent like yourself, because you practice there, what if an agent wanted to practice in Cabo or in Mexico? How would they do that?
If you're fully wanting to become licensed in Cabo, you go through a similar procedure that you go through in the United States, but you do that through the Cabo the MLS. We have an MLS, and I actually have been in classes in the US and they've said the United States is the only place that has an MLS system. And I said, well, that's not true. Cabo has one. And I got into a little spat with the guy about it. And I said, well, we do. And it's a flex MLS system, just like we have here in Vail,
Oh,
ironically. So I really lucked out with that, as I know, each market has their own MLS system that they use. And ironically, Cabo has the same one Vail does. So it was nice and easy for me. But you go down, you need to find a brokerage with whom to work. You'll need to go through the licensing process. However, if you want to help your clients in Cabo, we love paying referral fees. Things work very differently down there as far as that goes. There's a lot of agent bonuses that get paid down there, which I don't see in the US quite as common. Commonly, we see, $40,000 bonus on top of your commission to the buyer agent, 100 grand, or, they'll just throw out these crazy numbers. They're like, hey, people want to sell and they want to sell right now. So
right.
things can turn over that way, and we really welcome people, other agents from other areas. But honestly, and Debbie, my guess is you would agree with this, being an agent for as long as you have, and
Right.
frankly, it's part of our ethics agreement. If you're a member of NAR, is that you should not be practicing real estate in an area, whether it's a area like a geographical area, or it is an area within real estate that in which you are not proficient, right? So I have
I
people call me
100%
sometimes and they
agree.
and they say, "Oh, I'm going to send you a commercial lease." And I say, have you ever even done one commercial deal in your life? They said, no, but I'm going to
Right.
send it over to you. I thought, no, you're not. I mean, this is absurd. I think, and I'm really glad those parameters have been put in place for us, because I think it makes it difficult for newer agents to get the experience and be an expert in an area, but it also forces people to team up and work with mentors so that they can learn the business. Having people represented by incompetent agents, whether they're incompetent in the geographic area or they are not super competent in the type of real estate, whether it's a timeshare, a piece of land, a ranch, a home, a condo, whatever it is, you need to know what you're doing if you're representing someone else's interests. I mean, at this point, there really isn't any cheap real estate available.
Right.
I haven't found any. So this is big money you're talking about, and you better know what you're doing, because there's a lot of liability for us. And frankly, let's make everybody else in our industry look good, right? Because if I'm trying to sell
Absolutely.
in Denver, I'm not the girl to sell in Denver. I don't know the Denver market, I'll tell you what, Debbie, when you want to buy a place in Denver, I have fabulous agents in Denver that I can
Yeah.
hook you up with. And I
Absolutely.
think that's one of the coolest parts of what we're doing today, is that now we have the ability to really network with all of our fellow friends that work as real estate agents across the world.
Absolutely. No, so there's two parts to that. One is, yes, if you want to become an agent in Cabo, you could go, you could relocate there, you can do all the things to do to and to learn the market. But if it's not somewhere to dabble, like nowhere, like I agree. If I work in my area, but I'm not going to go. And I train this to our agents who we're working with. They're new agents. They come in and someone might say, oh, I want to work in, could be an hour from here. No, you're not going to be the expert in that area. And it's going to take you away from what you should be doing and learning in your area. And you can't be the expert because you are not the ears and the eyes on the ground. You don't know all the little things that are happening. So you're doing that client a disservice. So I love referrals. And that's why I love this podcast, because I get to meet agents from around the globe and we get to share. We get to share referrals. We get to know other markets. And you do, and especially in Cabo, like you said, in Cabo, it's if you refer someone to a development, sometimes you might get a 3% and not have to do anything. Or like you were saying, they really do bonus you because there is a lot of property and constant building down there. Every time I go down there, there's a new development. So yes, exactly what you said. Refer to other knowledgeable agents who have the expertise, skill, experience, and knowledge in that specific area. And clearly in Vail and the areas around Vail and Cabo, that is you. So step further, you like to specialize, let's talk about Cabo, in
Yeah.
certain types of properties. So you're really focusing and honing down on the types. So tell us, because people might want to buy with a couple 100,000, people might want to, buy a house, people might want to be in a community. When we bought a property, built a house in DC Ranch in Scottsdale, Arizona, we wanted infrastructure. We didn't want a standalone house. We wanted to be where there was pools and swimming pools and country club and places for the kids to hang out, schools, etc. So give us a breakdown of what the new Cabo is and all the different types of properties that are there.
Endless options. I mean, I think to your point of knowing, being an hour away, it's funny because in Vail, being an hour away, I do know those markets, right? Because our county is so vast and 80% of the land in Eagle County is owned by the government. So if I'm selling ranches or I'm selling something, mining claims or gold mine or something like that, I am the expert on that because I've been in the valley for so long and I know it. Flip to Cabo, my expertise is not Cabo Pumo. My expertise is not Todos Santos. These are places that are all in our MLS. And I have people call me and say, hey, my brother wants a condo in downtown Cabo, right on the marina. Awesome. Pick up the phone. I'm immediately referring that. If you want a condo in downtown Cabo, I'm not your girl. At this point, to take my own advice, I don't know condos in downtown Cabo because my life in Cabo is resort real estate and is golf course, gated communities, very heavy community aspect type places, with the exception of some new build communities that are through my office. So when I have like a new development being built, it's cool because I have opportunities for people to actually buy a condo for 300,000 that's in a really cool place. $300,000 condos are not available in the neighborhoods that I typically am representing down there. With the homes I'm representing, they're traditionally your gated golf course homes. They're going to be 2+ million. Even for condos, it's going to be at that level and up. And I think that depending on what someone wanted in Cabo, I do still a lot of referrals in Cabo. If you want to be in a sleepy, beachy town with no traffic and no real, you don't want to have to put on a pair of high heels, right? It's funny because I often refer to places by shoes. Okay. So if you want to stay in flip-flops the entire time you're there and put on a sarong and some jewelry and go to dinner and not worry about any of that, that's probably not the type of neighborhoods I'm selling in. Now, you can still pull that off, but my guess is you're going to be in a wedge with maybe a little sparkle and you're going to have a cuter sundress. I mean, even when I picked you up to tour around during the day to go to the beach, you looked adorable and you had on high heels, right? So that's different than going up where it's a little bit more, I call it kind of old school Mexico, right? A traditional, more authentic picture of what you are expecting. That is not high-end luxury. This is two very, very different animals, right? And so I think it's the similar thing you see in the mountains. Do you want a log cabin off the grid where nobody can find you and you're going to have to plow your own driveway? That's very, very different than being up at the Ritz at Thatcher Gulch. Very different type of, situation. So it always goes back to the same thing. And I think any seasoned realtor knows this, is that you have to listen to your client. You have to hear, what do you really want, right? So I think that's always one of our biggest challenges, is helping people figure out what they want. I have a lot of people who start by saying, I want to be right on the beach. I want to be on the beach. I want to walk out and have my
Right.
toes on the beach. I said, well, let me tell you, there are actually, do you want a swimmable beach? Because if you want to walk out and be on a swimmable beach in a gated neighborhood on a golf course, let me tell you, sweetie, there's only a handful of homes that actually, and you want a home, not a condo, like you start narrowing it down real fast, and your price point better start at 10 million and be real flexible,
Wow.
right? So then I say, oh, okay, so you could drive 3 minutes to the beach. Oh, all of a sudden our options open up immensely, right? We have so many more choices. So I think it really depends on what you want and with whom you want to surround yourself. If you want to kind of be on your own and go to Mexico as a complete escape and not really be around people, so to speak, that's available. But that's totally different for my empty nester client that wants to go down and be able to go to wine and cheese parties and have speaker series and be playing in the member golf tournament and pickleball and have bridge to go to 3 days a week, and or play mahjong or wine club or whatever you want to do. All those things exist, just in certain
That's
neighborhoods, and
amazing.
not everybody wants that, right? So I think that's, again, that's one of the most fun parts of, I think, of our jobs, is being able to accommodate and figure out what people really want. And with resort real estate, let's get real, nobody needs it. Nobody needs a $10 million
Right.
house on the beach. Nobody needs it. Okay, nobody needs
And
a
they're not
ski
even
home in
lived
a
there
nice
half
golf.
the time.
Nobody needs it. It's all
Right.
extra. So if you're going to have something extra, why not have it like your dream, right? Let's see what you really want and
Right.
let's make your dreams come true.
Well, what I learned from going out, so we've been there over the years. We've lucky enough to stay at Las Ventanas, which is still beautiful today. But
Gorgeous.
when we go, we're usually, we're on vacation for a couple days here and there. And like most people probably traveling to Cabo or Hawaii, you're on vacation. So you're like, which resort am I going to stay at? Which activity am I going to do? Am I going to sit on the beach and go for a walk on the beach and, you know, play golf or do whatever? But what was so fun, because I'm a workaholic, and it was so great. And thank you for picking me up at the hotel. My kids are like, you haven't been in the pool once. I'm like, I just want to learn. I just want to learn and get to know what is it like in Cabo? So you took me out, and what was really exciting, and I do want you to tell us about the two developments, Chilean Bay, if I'm Chileno Bay, and
Chileno Bay. Yes,
where
ma'am.
you, and then the development where your family lives. Because what I learned was, and I was so surprised, yes, there are all the resorts, and you can also go down to Cabo where all the clubs are and stuff, and you can have that experience. And but then you can actually, there's infrastructure of actually living there. I didn't think that there was that. Your parents live there full time and have a full life, and then you used to live there, and then a colleague of yours, we connected on LinkedIn, and she said she lives there with her young children of high school age. So tell us
Yep.
about how full a life you can have, like your parents have created. And your mom sounds like she's like how I'll be. She's so busy in retirement. And then
Yep.
and then you have your colleague who brought high school kids down there. So tell us about that side of Cabo.
I think my plan, I built a home in Cabo when my first child was born. She's 18 now, and her dad actually lives in that house now, and is we're not together, so he raises his little boy down there and he goes to school down there. Um you know, it's different than living in the US. Let's no qualms about it. And there are certain things that your children would have trouble probably doing. I mean, if you're, listen, sports if your children are heavy into sports, there's certain sports that you can't do down there. I mean, not to a level that if you are really good, it's probably not where you're going to be. Listen, if your son is a football enthusiast, I don't know that they have the best football teams there. Now, if you're playing soccer, that's a great sport to be doing in
Right.
Mexico, right? Because their soccer teams are incredible. Um, my girls,
Absolutely.
which you mentioned, are competitive dancers. So for us in that area of Mexico, there aren't this dance studios we're looking for. And it isn't so that wasn't an option for us. So even if I had lived there when they were little, we would have moved back to the States for them in high school. That being said, the elementary middle school education down there is great. There's several private schools that you can go to. There are American schools that you can go to that are fantastic, and I know a lot of people in there. Actually, the former headmistress of the school is a close friend of ours. She just retired last year. I was just with her on New Year's Eve. She's amazing. And but so there are kids that go to school there. They're getting a great education, and I think it's a wonderful place to raise a family. There's certain things you're not going to have there that, are more Americanized. We're not going to have a mall to go to. You're not going to have a ski mountain if that's important to you. If you have ski racers, obviously it's probably not where you're going to raise your kids. However, if those things aren't as important to you, and you have other focuses. I mean, my gosh, there's so many children that go to school online now. Who cares where you are? Why not live there
Right.
and go surfing every day? If your children are into surfing, boy, that's a great place to be living, right? Because we've got incredible surf breaks. We've got great surfers that have come out of there. So there's a lot of different things that there are a lot of different dynamics when working with family. So I think that's a different question and conversation than the people who are essentially empty nesters or ready for stage 2 in life or have the ability to travel and want to have more of a strong lifestyle there that doesn't involve the schooling aspect. So if we're talking about those people, it is unbelievably amazing. I mean, the life my parents have created for themselves down there is incredible. And they have a very strong, close group of friends here in Vail and obviously back in Kansas City and all over. But the friends they've made in Cabo have been very interesting and become some of their very, very closest friends because everybody's in the same boat. Most of the
Right.
people that are down there living there consistently are in the same type of life. Now, I'm not saying my parents are in their 70s. I'm not saying their friends are all in their 70s. They have friends in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and friends from all over the world now. And they travel with these people all over the world. And they as I love to say, someone's got to keep this party going, and apparently it's my mother. She is gonna have. She said, oh, I had her 70th birthday. I said, so are you gonna invite Aunt so and so? My godmother and all these people we grew. She said, no, I'm just gonna have my Cabo friends. Not really inviting anybody if they don't live in Cabo, just my Cabo friends. I showed up as a surprise. She had no idea I was coming, and I showed up to the surprise party. There were 200 people at my parents' house
Oh
for this
my God.
party. Just a quick on the fly surprise part, little party on her 70th. Just her friends in Cabo, almost 200 people there. I mean, that I think speaks volumes, right? Of that many people that are down there that they have become such close friends with. They have business, Monday morning men's group, and my dad will go and do, business breakfast, and he loves that. And then they play golf and they do paddle, pickleball, and they have pedal, and they have surfing, and they have bridge group. And my mom actually just hosted, my parents hosted a giant bridge extravaganza. I think they had dozens and dozens of people, and the lead bridge aficionado was down there teaching classes. And, they do all of that. They get up and go to the open air market. They have, but they have incredible restaurants, incredible art, is there. I think the culture that they have there is spectacular. And that is really fueled by not only your expats and your gringos that are down there trying to make it um, more of a community, which of course the people who make a community are the community members. Okay. That's true in any community. So I think that's one reason in real estate, we always say, if you want to make a difference in your community, get involved in the community. You can't just sell houses. You need to be doing boots on the ground stuff to make a difference. And I think the
Yes.
people down there really do that. And it's all the people. They make an effort to give back. They work with everyone from, whether it's Smile Train or it's the Liga Mac, which they're helping all the dogs and cats that don't have a home, or which has been
Oh,
notoriously a problem throughout Mexico. People, oh, the crazy dogs everywhere. We're really getting that under control, and we're
mm,
homing those animals, and we're doing, we're helping
amazing.
with that. And that doesn't help you in a gated neighborhood with golf courses. That helps the community, and those are the people that are servicing all these places. So I think the fact that you have so much culture, whether it's within the Mexican culture or the culture you're creating down there, it really is 5 star, and so many opportunities there to not only you can get involved on both ends. You just want to go down there and lay on the beach, great, someone will bring you a pina colada, I promise. But if you want to go down there and start a real life, I mean, my dad started his own nonprofit down there, which has been really cool to see what he's
Oh,
done
I
with
love
it. And we've really become close friends with a lot of the Mexican nationals down there. And as I've seen, which has been fun for me to see people, obviously, at any company, people term out. You don't keep your employees all the time. But those employees
that.
have become part of our family, and now my parents throw a party. That's who's working at the party. The people who used to work up at the club, and they maybe have moved on, but they are still part of our family, and we love being able to give back to them and to their families. And driving in Mexico is always people red flag. I can't drive. Don't worry, we've got drivers for you. And guess what? They would also love to have your money and be able to take incredible care of you. Security has
Right.
never been a huge concern down there, and I think that's a big red flag for people. Also, am I safe
Right.
down there? I am. I am a blonde, not large female, right? And I go out and I
Right.
love to dance. I'm a huge dancer, and dancing's always been a big part of my life, and I go out by myself. Like, I roll
Wow.
down, parking downtown, go out alone, dance. And it was funny. Now my oldest is 18, so I've been able to take her out to the clubs, which has been super fun because they're dancers. So being able to have my dancers with me is kind of a rite of passage, right? Going to the clubs with your children. And
Absolutely.
it was interesting because I dance a lot, and so I get a little warm, and so I start kind of walking off on my own, and to have the employees kind of follow me around and say, I just want to, are you okay? I just want to make sure you're okay. And you see the level of concern that these people have for
Mm.
their guests. And, that's at El Squid Row. Like, there are hundreds of people there dancing around. And as I'm kind of just wandering about, checking, I mean, clearly not a lot of people my age there at that point. I'm the mom that's at the club. Um,
Right.
found that so enlightening, that they would care enough to come by and just say, "Are you okay? Senora, are you okay? Madam, are you okay? Just, do you need some water?" Like, and oh, I'm fine. I'm just, getting a little breath of air. But I think it speaks volumes to the Mexican people of how incredible
Oh,
they are and how much they are so grateful for us to be there. Tourism is the biggest business in Cabo. So when H1N1 hit and they quit, no cruise ships were coming into Cabo, no flights were really going into Cabo. Like, it was a disaster for those people. They were begging you to come into their restaurant and eat dinner. And I remember going to the beach and watching. I'd never seen this before, and I may get a little teary because it was emotional to see all the locals out on the main tourist beach teaching their children how to fish so that they could eat that
oh,
night. And so they're out
oh, wow.
there, they're making it happen because if they don't have tourism in Cabo, I
Right.
mean, that is how most people survive. Very similar to
Right.
Vail. If that is how we live. Like, you may not like them in your roundabouts because they don't know how to drive in them, but if they're not here, we can't put food on the table for our children. So it is very
Right.
important. I think that's worldwide, right? So let's just keep
Right.
remembering that as you visit another country, you are an asset to that community because you are an influx of cash to it. Every bottle of water you buy, every meal you eat, every little, handmade doll you buy on the street, it's helping someone.
Right. Well, it's so refreshing for you to say that because we were going to actually come to Cabo this weekend, and I couldn't get it together fast enough. But I was looking at you go on to look at flights, and it was like Mexico was like Americans shouldn't go. Like it was like, is anywhere in Mexico safe for us? And I take that with a grain of salt because we were in Mexico
Yeah,
3 times last year, from Mexico City to Cabo to Cancun. And I felt safe the whole time, and people were so nice and couldn't be nicer. So we have crime everywhere, and you can't, be doing dumb things. But I've experienced the Mexico that you just explained. I've never had a bad experience, knock on wood. And I think we just have to be, people come here. I live in Oakland, California. If you were to Google that, it's the worst place. But I live here, and I'm looking out to all three bridges, and it's beautiful. And knock on wood, I've always been safe. But yes, people do rely, especially in Mexico, on tourism, and it is a great place, and they are friendly. Don't do anything stupid, but they do care about us and people who visit there, and that is how they get by. We became very good friends after going to Vidanta in Puerto Vallarta year after year after year, and we have a very good friend who was a concierge, who is the manager of a pool and now at the resort. And flew down to Mexico City for my 60th birthday. I mean, he is part of our family. So I definitely understand when you say, you meet people who might work there, but they become our friends and our family. And
you bet.
it's the Mexican people are wonderful. So how could people get a hold of you? Clearly, anyone who is going to Vail, or well, name, not everyone knows all of the areas. Give us the places in the cities and towns or communities that you serve in the mountains, and then also in Cabo, in Los Cabos and Cabo.
So in the mountains, I personally serve everything from East Vale. I say East Vale to the canyon. So if you know our valley well, that would be East Vale, Vale, Minern, Red Cliff, then Eagle Vale, Beaver Creek, Bachelor Gulch, Cordillera, Avon, Edwards with no ski mountain, known as one of the best ski towns. And also Eagle was rated one of the top 10 best kept secret little towns in America. And Eagle, Colorado is very, very up and coming, as well as Gypsum. And then, of course, up to Bond and McCoy and some other areas that are a little more rural, but they do have great ranch land out there. So for people who are looking for
Wow.
off the grid or anything like that, that's been a real fun area to look as well. In Cabo, also ironically, kind of runs in a corridor. It's just one straight shot across the deal. And you start in downtown Cabo, which is where the marina is. So for those of you who are in California, just straight down to the tip of the Baja, that's where that's located. And you have Cabo San Lucas, then you have the corridor, which is really where a lot of the hotels are. It's a hotel corridor essentially. And then Old Town, which is San Jose del Cabo, which is where you're going to find the art fair on Thursdays. If you're going down, you got to go to the art fair, and all the way to the East Cape. We can help cover anything in the Baja, but I would personally probably refer you out depending on what neighborhood you're in, because what neighborhood you're interested in looking in, because I would want to make sure you're working with someone who really is an expert in that area. And like I said, well, to your point, since I don't live there, I'm not going to open houses every single day. I'm not learning new communities exactly when they're being built at that time. And I would want to make sure that with whomever I'm working, I'm gonna have to turn the camera around before we get off, because there are snowflakes that are bigger than the
Oh,
size of a silver dollar just coming down. It literally
wow.
looks like a winter wonderland. So before we hang up, I'm gonna do that for anyone
Okay.
who's watching that isn't in the mountains, because it's a little magical. So honestly, I think like we all say, if you're interested in an area that you're not very aware of or want to learn more about, you need to get in touch with an agent that gets it. So I really don't care where you're looking. If you're looking in Turkey, I have incredible agents in Turkey. If you're looking in Italy, like where you were, I have phenomenal agents in Italy. And I'd love to just help you figure out where you want to be. And I think that's a part, it's a big, like I said, it's a big part of our job. And some people call
Right.
me and say, I want to be in the ski mountains, but I'm not sure it's Vail. Well, let's talk about Jackson Hole. Let's talk about Bozeman. Let's talk about, Sun Valley. There's a lot of different options, and
Right.
figuring out what fits best for you and your family is really the ideal scenario. So thank you for asking that question.
Absolutely.
And I would love to help anyone in any areas, but Cabo and Vail are my babies at this point.
I love it. Well, I think that's what makes a good agent is when you're willing to help someone figure out what they're looking for, whether it's your area or not, and then pointing them in that direction and then referring them a good person in that area. I think that just speaks volumes of a good agent and of you, Jennifer. Well,
Thank
it
you.
has
Well,
been,
I know you're the same way.
I know, why we connected. And thank you for Corcoran for connecting us. And so we have a Corcoran office down there. And where's your office down in Corcoran, down the Corcoran office down in Cabo?
The Corcoran office in Cabo is in downtown San Jose, which is
Oh, it
absolutely
is. Okay.
lovely and magical. And I think a lot of people who go to Cabo, they don't even know about San Jose. They don't even know it's
Wow.
an option. And I think there's, of course, downtown Cabo where the cruise ships come in. It's very touristy. There are great restaurants. There's a lot of live music and energy and all that kind of fun stuff, and definitely has kind of a spring breaky feel to it. San Jose del Cabo, that's where the church is, and the square,
Oh,
and the churro trucks, and the live dancers, and different kind of dancers. We're gonna have like
yeah.
cultural dancers as opposed to dancers that are, wearing a bikini. Um, different vibe for sure, different vibe. So our
Right.
our office is in San Jose, and I think a lot of our clients, that's where we see more of that gated golf course community is down closer to
Going
San
there.
Jose, which is where I believe our phenomenal owner, Blake Harrington, and decided to put the office. And I'm grateful to be a founding partner of Corcoran down there. We're so excited to
Awesome.
have them there. And uniquely, I get to work with Coldwell Banker Distinctive Properties here in the States. So it's awesome working for two giants because you really get to see the difference between the two companies. And it's giving me an even wider sphere of agents with whom to connect, which is
Right.
really, I think, my superpower is that I have so many incredible connections of just hustlers, right? In every market. And I think that's it. It's just like when we met, when you meet people and you're like, I would love to send them a client. I would love to have them help my people. And because I know you're going to treat them like gold. And I appreciate the
Right.
time, Debbie, and being able to come here
Oh,
and visit with
thank
you
you
and
so
to speak with you. And hopefully we can help some more people together.
Absolutely. Well, no question if you're going to go to Cabo or Vail, but what I love about if you're going to go to Cabo, you're going to either work with Jennifer or she's going to refer you to someone who is more specialized and spends more time in whatever that niche is that works for you. So I just love that. That's music to my ears that you're all about helping people and not about just making a dollar. And that's why we've connected. And it's so wonderful to have you. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
I
Thank
look
you.
forward to seeing you too. Thank you so much. And I think the key is just remain a concierge agent. I get asked for dinner suggestions probably as much as I get at no, it's not quite as much, but you better know where to send them because that's it's
Right.
it's all part of the deal. Babysitters and dinner, right? Got to know where to put it. And
Exactly.
I will
Especially in
turn
those
this so
vacation
you can
spots.
see
Oh yeah, let's
hopefully.
see the snow.
Can you
Wow,
see
that's
the snow
gorgeous.
falling? So absolutely crazy. Turning my computer, that was a little nuts, but thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Have a
And
great
that's a wrap.
afternoon, and I look forward to our next time, and also look forward to sending you some clients soon too,
Absolutely.
Debbie.
Thank you.
Tune in each week for another episode of Mastering the Art of Real Estate with host Debbi DiMaggio. Here Fridays, noon Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network. Tune in to where real estate matters matter.